Welcome to Tarot 101 with 333. In this series, we'll be breaking down each card of the tarot deck and looking beyond its basic meanings and keywords and actually break down what each card is actually saying so you can get better interpretation and better insight while you're reading for yourself or others. Now, we're going to talk about the Magician, which is card number 1. But just because this is labeled as number 1 does not mean that this is the first card of the tarot deck. It is not. The first card of the deck is 0, which is the Fool. I've already made a video for the Fool, so if you haven't taken a look at it, go back and look at that and meet us here where we'll be looking into number 1, the Magician. So the Magician is where possibility becomes personal power. Now, the basic things that you really hear when it comes towards the Magician is all about manifestation and power, skills, having confidence, taking action, and having everything that you need. Now, the Magician is where limitless potential of the Fool becomes focused intention. Because the Fool says, I'm willing to begin, but the Magician says, now let me figure out what I actually can create. Because the Fool enters the journey carrying possibility, the Magician recognizes that same possibility that the Fool carries. They recognize that possibility is useless unless it's directed somewhere. So in this energy here, with number 1, it talks about identity, initiative, and independence, and focus, and willpower, creation, and action. So 0, which is the Fool, says anything can happen. Number 1 says, this is what I intend to make happen. The real transition between the Fool and the Magician is the Fool trusts the journey. The Magician begins participating in the actual creation. So the Magician is just not about manifestation. It's about action. Because you can't just sit there wishing and waiting. The Magician identifies what is available, understand how it works, and apply it forward towards a result. So a lot of people, when they pull the Magician, they say, believe in yourself and all that, yada, yada, yada. That is true. But it's really telling you to, what do you know? Can you use what you know? Can you work with what you have? Do something with it. Because manifestation without participation or action, it's only a desire. The Magician requires involvement. Now, when it comes towards the Magician, there's tools involved. There's the wand, there's the cup, there's the sword, and the pentacle. They're all laid out in the imagery of the Magician. But just because you have the tools does not mean that you are a master with these tools. The Magician embodies every element in every suit of the minor arcana. But like I said, having tools does not automatically means that you know how to use them. Let's use tarot as an example. Anybody can buy a tarot deck, but that doesn't automatically make them a reader. So when the Magician appears, you don't need to ask, do I have what I need? You need to ask, have I developed a skill or have I developed a focus to use it properly here? Now, also another thing here to pay attention to is when you pull out the Fool, is something that a lot of people miss. When you see the Fool, we talk about confidence a lot of times. But with the confidence, that's noticeable here with the Magician, this is also someone that knows how to present themselves. So when you pull the Magician, this could be someone that could be very articulate, persuasive, attractive, clever, and also convincing. Because that confidence is backed up by the tools or the skill. The Magician is someone that knows how to look capable here. So when you see the Magician, sometimes this can point out to be someone that is an expert, a skilled communicator, a creator, a salesperson, a performer, a charmer, someone knowing how to convince someone, how to really sell someone on something. So this energy here, when you get the magician here, you have to know how to use your discernment, whether it's mastery or maybe a performance. So when you pull the magician, it's telling you to look at what can this person produce, not what they can merely just promise you. Now, with the magician, with the presentation, yeah, it looks good. With the magician, yeah, they got the tools and everything of that nature. But just because the magician comes out does not automatically mean that everybody has good intentions. Because power is not the same thing as integrity. Talent is not the same thing as someone's character. So the magician can describe someone who knows exactly how to direct energy, influence people, or try to create a desired type response or result. So with this magician here, yeah, we notice how it shows up here. So you have to take an accountability that, yeah, the magician can create, persuade, teach, or inspire, but they also can manipulate, distract, or control the narrative. Now, when it also, another thing that I want to point out with the magician here, the magician also represents action, like I said. But another thing to really focus in on is about communication. Because the magician is associated with Mercury. So communication is a big thing that is pretty much equal to Mercury's energy. Things are moving fast. So this can point out to be text messages, conversations, writing, teaching, marketing, social media, negotiations, contract, clever wordings, and things of that nature. So the magician understands that words can create responses or results for them. So say, for instance, you pull out the magician in a love reading. This could be somebody has charm or try to impress you or persuade you. In a career, this can mean marketing your abilities, interviewing here, or turning knowledge into a form of income. So when you see this magician, you have to ask the real question. Are they communicating honestly, or are they communicating strategically? Because those are not always the same thing. Now, another thing to pay attention to with the magician is one hand is upward and the other hand is pointing towards earth. So some people may say, as above, so below. So the magician acts as a channel between inspiration and reality. So the raised hand could be an idea. It could be intuition. It could be spiritual energy. It could be information. It could be vision, or just inspiration in general. The lowered hand points directly towards actions, the work, the communication, the money, the art, the business, or actual physical results. So the magician stands between the unseen and the seen. So it's like between thinking about it and someone actually producing it. So the magician is basically bringing everything into form. Now let's go into another thing here about the actual tools. When it goes towards the wand. Now the wand in the minor arcana represents fire. That's that willpower. That's that passion. That's that inspiration, that courage, that force. So the wand basically provides the ignition. But uncontrolled wand energy, uncontrolled fire energy can become ego, impatience, or impulsiveness. So the magician needs passion, but the passion must be directed correctly to be used properly. Now, when it comes towards the cup energy, of course, that represents water. And water represents emotions, intuition, relationships, imagination, emotional intelligence. So the magician, when the water energy is there, it reminds us that your feelings influence what or how you create it. So you can claim you want something, but if you emotionally accept rejection or failure or abandonment, your behavior may work against your initial intention. So in the cup aspect of the magician, It's basically asking you, what emotional energy are you pouring into this? Now, the sword. The sword represents air. And the sword basically talks about thoughts, communication, strategy, using your discernment, trust, mental clarity, also decision making. So the magician needs a focused mind to be used the right way. So scattered thoughts can create scattered action. So when we're thinking about in the air part of the magician, it's basically telling you to clarify your goals, choose your words carefully, create a solid plan, cut through distractions, and stop contradicting yourself. So your intentions cannot be clear if your mind is committed to 15 million different outcomes by lunchtime. Next, we have the pentacle. And the pentacle represents earth energy. So pentacle represents money, resources, stability, tangible results. And I feel like when it comes towards the pentacle energy, the earth energy, I feel like you have to do the actual action. Because again, going back to the manifestation aspect of the magician card, manifesting without action is nothing here. So you have to do the work. So this is basically saying, when you see this card, when it comes towards the pentacle energy, have you actually put in that application? Have you actually posted the content? Did you make that phone call? Did you provide your business with actual structure? Are you practicing your skills? Are you practicing boundaries that you need to communicate? So the magician here, when it comes towards the pentacle, is joining spiritual intention with actual movement. So those four tools collectively put together a whole different image when it comes towards the magician, and it shows you all the tools that we need to kind of utilize to make something very direct when it comes towards this magician energy. Another symbol or another tool that I do want to point out when it comes towards the magician energy is the affinity sign, the affinity symbol. And the affinity above the head represents continuing the energy, limitless potential, spiritual power, repeated creation, a circulation of energy, possibility that can be renewed. So when you see the magician here, this doesn't mean that the magician possesses unlimited time, money, or resources here. It represents the abundance in the magician ability to adapt here. So when one method fails, there could be another method that could be very useful. When one resource disappears, he knows how to create something else with what remains. So the power of the magician is not only what you carry, it's in what you know on what to do with it. Now, I feel like another thing when it comes towards the magician here is really pointing towards just a lot of other things as far as like the garment. In most tarot decks, is probably a red cape or a red piece of clothing, maybe have white too. Most of them it has red and white, but we have other decks out now that creates the magician to their liking. But if you have a deck here, as far as like the garments, the clothing here can represent something too. So the white garment pieces could mean purity, potential, awareness. The red can mean action and passion, the desire, power, ambition. And together they show intention being carried into the actual action. So white without the red stays an idea, and red without white can become impulsive, selfish, or controlling. So the balanced magician combines clear purpose with disciplined movement. Another thing here that I hear a lot of people talk about is with the magician is you can have every and anything that you want. But the magician asks you to pay attention to certain things a little closer. It's basically saying that you can have influence, you can have the ability or the resources, but the result depends on how you intentionally use them. Power creates possibility. but it does not guarantee an outcome. You still need focus. You still need discipline, practice, timing, responsibility, and follow through energy. Now, when it comes towards the magician energy, because we have to talk about the other things here. So sometimes when you see the magician in an upright standpoint in readings for yourself or others, this is telling you to watch out for ego, overconfidence, smooth talking, manipulation, image management, false promises, controlling the narrative, performing, trying to force an outcome, using spirituality to avoid actual action. So I feel like with the upright here does not mean that every expression that comes with the magician card is healthy. Sometimes the upright magician can be highly capable and still use those abilities or resources very selfishly. Now, when you see a reverse magician here, that points to power being underused or misused. So if you get a magician in reverse here, it talks about self-doubt, imposter syndrome, untapped talent, scattered energy, procrastination, poor planning, waiting for permission here, having resources but failing to use it or failing to act on them, or refusing to recognize your own ability. So the magician, when it's in reverse, the magician can still be capable here, but they're not trusting themselves. They're not using the tools that are present here. They're not really trusting themselves. And that misused power sometimes could be procrastination, manipulation, lying, scamming, trickery, love bombing, selling dreams, spiritual deceptions here, controlling people through words or certain things that you have, or using charm to hide weak intentions. So I feel like when you see the magician in reverse here, this person can be brilliant. They may have a brilliant presentation, but has no real intention behind it. So watch the magician hands, watch the follow through, watch what's actually being produced. Another thing that people, I mentioned it earlier in the video. Another thing that I want to point out is with the magician, it carries Mercury energy. And Mercury, like I said, carries the communications, the language, learning, the adaptability, business, cleverness, information, and skill. But with the Mercury energy, it also points to the sign Gemini and Virgo, because those are the two signs directly connected to Virgo. The Gemini and Virgo is directly connected to Mercury. I'm sorry. So Gemini brings communication, wit, storytelling, persuasion, quick thinking. And then with the Virgo energy, it brings technique, precision, practice, problem solving, discernment, and refining skills here. So that's another thing to carry into the energy of the magician here, because Gemini energy carries messages, Virgo energy develops a method, and the magician actually needs both. Another thing that I want to talk about when it comes towards tarot and the magician, a lot of people may look into the timing of something. So if you're using the tarot in the sense of timing type of reading or type of situation, the likely timing that comes with the magician is 1 day, 1 week, within 1 to 4 weeks, 1 month, Wednesday because of Mercury energy, Gemini season, or Virgo season. So when it comes towards the magician, typically it doesn't mean years. It represents initiation, communication, and direct movement. So when it comes towards the magician, it's all about event-based timing. So it's like this is when the clock begins for the energy, because you already taken the action. So we're just waiting for the result here. So the magician energy here, it describes the moment intention, but it describes the moment intention becomes actual movement. Now, I did speak about a little bit when it comes towards love reading. When it comes towards the magician, pay attention to flirting, strong attraction, pursuit, and things of that nature, but also pay attention to the love bombing, manipulation, and things of that nature. I feel like a healthy magician does more than talk when it comes towards a love energy. They initiate, they organize, they follow through, they create something. Now, when it comes towards career standpoint, the magician is all about branding, entrepreneurship, sales, social media, teachings, and things of that nature. So when it comes towards career and money, when you see a magician, it's basically talking about earnings, certain things that you are wanting to do through personal talent and communication and things of that nature. So even though the presentation could be impressive when it comes towards money and career, the magician urges you to read the fine print. So spiritually, the magician teaches about conscious participation. This is pointing towards you are not powerless here. But this is also here saying that you still need to pay attention to everything else that comes with this energy. So prayer may reveal direction. Intuition may deliver messages. Your guides may help you expose certain opportunities or certain things here. But at the same time, the magician is telling you, you still need to respond no matter how a certain resource or a certain answer comes to you too at the same time. So a lot of questions here as I'm closing up this video, a lot of things you may need to ask yourself when you see a magician in your readings here is, what tools am I overlooking? Where am I waiting for permission? Am I communicating clearly? Is this person actually showing me good intention, or are they just talking themselves through it? Is this person demonstrating skill, or they're just performing? What am I intentionally trying to create? Am I influencing the situation, or am I trying to control it? What move from an idea, what needs to move from an idea into a sense of practice? Like, so what do I need to work on? What evidence exists beyond the promises being made? So the magician energy is not just simply saying everything is powerful. This is basically saying here, what are you doing with your power? So potential can remain untouched for years. Talents can go underdeveloped. A brilliant idea can just stay an idea. The magician is where inspiration becomes execution. Your voice is a tool. Your mind is a tool. Your intuition is a tool. Your experience is a tool. Your hands are a tool. You may not have everything you want yet, but stop acting like you have nothing to actually work with. So you already have certain things in your possession that can change your situation. The question is whether you will focus it, develop it, or use it with great intention. So the magician isn't always the master. Sometimes he's simply the best person in the room at convincing you he is. So that's all I have for the magician. And stay tuned as we break down the next tarot card, and that is the High Priestess. See you soon, and hopefully this brought you the insight into the magician.